Okay, we should be live on both. If you want to double check me, make sure.
So anyone who's watching in the chats, feel free to give us some kind of indication that looks good. Okay.
Wave flags.
Vince has confirmed we okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So, where's my
Yeah,
phone? All
hi
right.
everyone.
What else can happen? All right. So, all right. So here, we'll start at the beginning. So first of all, thank you guys and girls for hanging out and kind of chugging through with us as we get through this hard start to today's stream. So the reason why we're having these difficulties once in a while, we are really pushing an older PC that is being replaced for specifically for the live streams. It's on the way. We don't have an ETA yet, but it is on the way. Anyway, and specifically with this stream, we're trying to do some really cool things. One of our most popular streams we did way back when had to do with the collaboration, where we showed multiple artists in different continents working at the same time. We're going to do something very similar today. I'll let Wendy introduce things in a minute. I'm just going to say a couple of very quick things. So we now are available on RSS thanks to Wendy. So anyone can subscribe to these live streams and listen to them. If you don't want to watch the chaos happening, you can listen. Um, so that's just rss.com and do a search for NVIDIA Omniverse. This is probably our last official stream of the year. So we're going out with in style. um, so what you want to do though is follow us because Wendy and I will probably sneak in an unannounced stream at some point before the end of the year. And this is kind of just be a casual kind of hang out and get together with the community.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
do
probably
something
share
fun. Yeah.
Wendy probably has some great tricks up her sleeve for a little trivia, maybe. So that's going to happen kind of unannounced. But if you follow us in Discord, we'll talk about it there. Well, one thing we do want to announce quickly too is we're in deep in planning for the next year's live streams. And there's a bunch planned that are going to excite a lot of people, starting with a kind of a brief roadmap of what's planned for the rest of 2022 as of now. And we'll look at some of the things we accomplished in 2021. But we're going to talk about Omniverse Farm, Omniverse Avatar, which is for enabling
Oh,
interactive
I can't wait for
AI
that one.
avatars.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. We showed a sneak peek at that at GTC. When we get to Omniverse Replicator, we'll do a show specifically that's been in high demand on materials and material workflows. We'll talk about digital humans and audio to face. That's going to be a whole separate live stream. And you never know. There's usually always a contest around the corner. So I don't know anything specific that I can share, but you can probably bet there's something coming soon. So we're going to all be also very active at CES. So there's going to be a nice keynote there with some new announcements. So that's only a few weeks away at the beginning of January. So anyway, so that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And Wendy, thank you so much for all your work and troubleshooting. Wendy, I got to tell you,
Thanks for
Wendy handled
breaking everything, Wendy.
now. Wendy, you handle it. You handle these kind of moments very well. So and Wendy is doing an amazing job. So thank you so much, Wendy.
Well, thank you. It's definitely proven how far our technology makes these live streaming much better. Every time I do an update or a new GPU, it's like magic. But so for this stream here, this is gonna be super cool because we have TJ Galda. Did I say your name right, TJ?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
happy to be here.
So he is our director of product management, and he has done some really super cool things with Omniverse. And today specifically, we're going to talk about collaboration, which is one of the reasons why we really wanted to push our tech as far as it could go today. We want to show, uh, just live Paul and TJ working on something together. And of course, we have Paul, who is a frequent guest of ours.
He's a
And
regular.
yeah, we've adopted him to our team. Uh, he is our Harrison Ford lookalike. And so Paul, why don't we start with you? Do you like to do a little introduction of yourself?
Sure. You guys hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes.
My mic is working. Good. So I'm just a longtime 3D artist. I got started in games. Well, actually, I got started before games in advertising, and then moved into games, and then I was working with Epic for a while, and now I'm here. Well, Autodesk before Epic, and then Epic, and now NVIDIA. So I've been in the 3D world for God too damn long. But it's a passion, so you just keep with your passions, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, do what you
So
love,
yeah,
man.
I'm just a generalist for all intents and purposes, with some special capabilities in some locations, though. Generally, I'm just a generalist.
Yeah, but if you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work, right? At least
Never,
that's what it's supposed to.
especially when I'm working with you, and
TJ, would you like to give a little introduction about yourself, what you do here?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've only been with NVIDIA for a little while. I joined back in March. And it's exciting. It's been a whirlwind. We've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're working on, and I can't wait to show obviously what we got today, plus more stuff coming, which is awesome. Prior to that, I was at Autodesk, just like Paul, but I was the senior product line manager there for the entertainment products. So you might know Maya or Motion Builder, those types of products. And then before that, I was in the trenches as well. So I worked in film, I worked in games. I was, a decade or so in AAA games, Electronic Arts, and then before that, I was at DreamWorks and did some VFX and some commercials. And suddenly the list gets pretty long. I've unfortunately or fortunately, I hate to say, but I've been doing for over 20 years now, and I've just like Paul, I've enjoyed every minute of it. So, yeah, I figured we could jump in and show you a bit about Nucleus and all the different things, and then we'll cut to maybe trying to do some stuff live as we answer questions that come in.
Yeah, awesome. So let's cut to that.
Great. Hi, I'd like to give you a quick tour of Nucleus. With NVIDIA Omniverse, it's one of the core components. There's many other videos and documentation on this site, so please take a look at those. Today, as I said, we'll focus on Nucleus. As you can see, there's many different things you can dig into, whether you want to learn about Omniverse Create or Audio to Face. I encourage you to. There's a lot to explore, and it's really fun. When we talk about Nucleus, you think about collaboration and data. And you can collaborate both with multiple people or with yourself. In this scenario, I'm going to show you how Nucleus can help you collaborate amongst many tools. So here we have an example where I'm using Maya on the left and Omniverse Create on the right. And I'm leveraging Maya's ability and the fact that I've used it for so many years to be able to place stuff and move it around, change the model. But at the same time, I'm able to work within Omniverse Create on the right and change the shaders and the lighting and change how the scene looks. And I'm doing that by enabling the live mode that connects through Nucleus. And here I am changing the swimming pool ladder to make it taller and wider, but it's really easy to see it in the viewport with lighting, and it's actually much easier to work when I can see how it's going to react with the shading against the pool. And so I love being able to work with whatever tool is the fastest. In this case, I'm, like I said, working between Autodesk's Maya tool and Create and going back and forth. And Nucleus allows us to do that by passing the differences and changes amongst the files. So in this case, you can see I'm moving the donut around, and obviously it was going into itself. I might want to change how the pans are looking or move these items around. And all while I'm doing that, I'm seeing live updates through Nucleus in the Omniverse Create app on the right. I can do multiple things, like in this case, I'm sculpting the cloth that's on the chair. I can switch the viewport, I can change lights, I can bounce back and forth. And the great thing is, even though I'm only working by myself, I'm able to collaborate amongst many different tools. And this is one of the great advantages of using Nucleus. So you can see here, changing the flower pot really allows me to see what it would look like with different materials in different lighting and really work between the two of them. Now, when you think about collaboration, obviously most people don't think about working with themselves, and they think about working amongst teams. And this is where the power really comes into play. So Nucleus allows multiple teams from different places. So in this case, our example is from London and Los Angeles and Bangalore, all working together. And in this case that I'm showing you here, we have an example of someone using Unreal Engine on the top, Substance in the middle, and Maya on the bottom, and they're all working on this industrial loft type kitchen to work together. And so you're able to use whatever tool's the fastest and easiest for you and work with multiple people at the same time. And that's really cool. And this is why people get excited about using Omniverse and Nucleus. So beyond the collaboration bit, there's many other things that I'd like to show you in this highlight tour of the functionality. So it all starts with the idea of this digital archive, and that's USD, and why Pixar, well, they built USD for themselves first, but then open sourced it for everybody else. And there's a number of different things that come together, including powerful layers, but also we build in different things like microservices and stuff. And I'll show you some examples of all of this. So here it is, a web page with Nucleus, and we're just going to jump to our local host in this case. So this is an example of running Workstation directly on my computer. And the first thing you want to do when you're sharing files is be able to admin and allow different users. So I can easily create a new user, or I can assign users passwords, etc. So this is a typical user management flow. You can obviously assign users to groups and a variety of things that you would expect. On top of that, we can then start adding those users to the permissions. So in this case, I'm giving Julie the read-write ability to look at the Octopus folder. And Nucleus handles multiple different file types. As I drag it up here, what it will do is it will actually run one of our microservices I mentioned, so it makes the thumbnails for us. And now Julie is able to see those textures immediately. And of course, you can put any file you want on Nucleus. So in this case, here's a Maya file, but it doesn't have to be a USD file. The other thing that comes along is something we call checkpoints. So checkpoints are basically different versions of your file, and I'll explain those in details. I'm also showing quickly that you can look at this in the navigator, and you can add your own tags to it. In fact, we've got services that will add tags to it for you if you like. And in this case, I can search for octopus and quickly find it, or shoe, or anything else that has a tag. And this becomes really quick and easy to find your files. So you can see here, there's a number of different powerful features, but one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail is checkpoints. So here's a chair scene that I've set up, and you can see I've got about 10 or 12 different checkpoints. So every time I save my scene, Nucleus is going to build a version for me, which we call checkpoints. And in this case, what I've done is I made a number of different ones. I've made a blue one and a white one, and I'm able to actually drag those different checkpoints into this local scene to then be able to have them all at the same time, so I can look at them from different angles, and maybe I can set up a review session with the art director to come by and try to figure out which of the chairs and which of my changes they like. So this is a really powerful way of working where you can iterate, do multiple options. You can see I made two different reds, one slightly more tomato and one slightly darker, some white and blue, and then have a review session and work and look at each one and decide maybe we like the steel color from one of the chairs and the actual chair color from another one. And then what I can do is I can go to my chair group and say I like the white one. So I'm going to right click and say restore that checkpoint, and at the top I now have a new version that is the white chair. And if I was to reopen this scene, what will happen is it will open up just the white chair. And this is great, but maybe the feedback was I wanted to change some of the chairs, so maybe the white was a little bit too white and I want to make it a bit more blue or a bit more yellow. And maybe the metal there is a bit too dark, so I want to make my metal look differently. Well, I can go into my different materials, and NVIDIA obviously ships with Omniverse hundreds of materials, so you can go through the metals and pick maybe something that's a bit more interesting. So maybe the feedback was I want to have a heat-treated metal, so I'm going to grab this one, assign an iron-pitted one, and then go within the materials and tweak the settings a little bit to make it a bit more rainbow. And as I do that, right now I'm working on checkpoint 13, which I had restored from the white one, but when I'm ready to save it, I can save it as a new checkpoint and give it a name. So I'm going to just change some settings here a little bit to give it a more interesting look. And then when I save it, I get this new version. So I'm going to say with options and give it a name. So I'll say this is a white with heat treated metal. Hit save, and I see that as my version. right? So this is fascinating, interesting, and it allows people to work on multiple versions, because what I can do now, let's say I'm in this sunroom setting and I want to leverage that change that we've just done in this scene. There's a few ways I can do it. I can hit reload layer, and that will reload the latest one, which is the white one, as opposed to where I had it red before. Or I can go through each of the individual checkpoints and pick them. So I can restore it as we just did and force the blue one to be at the top and reload it. Or within create itself, I can actually say, no, I want to open up a specific version. So this allows teams to work in parallel, where I can make more changes to this chair, and the people in the sunroom scene don't necessarily have to get the latest. And that's really powerful. So in this case, I've got the white chair, which is the latest, but maybe I want to pick the blue chair and look at it from different angles to see, do I like the blue chair or not? Maybe actually I like the red chair. So I can easily go to that checkpoint, pick a different one, and you can see the URL changes. So it has a little bit extra info to say, open up the checkpoint number 9 for this chair. So forever after, if the other department works on this chair, changes the shape, maybe makes it taller, skinnier, it doesn't matter, because this particular scene will always open up that checkpoint 9 until I tell it otherwise. So that's a really quick look at checkpoints. And as I said, there's a number of different features, as you've probably seen on the features and benefit page. So quickly, I want to talk about microservices. This is another great feature that Nucleus comes with. And one of the microservices is thumbnail generation. As you saw when we drag textures on, the textures immediately have thumbnails so you can see what they are. This other interesting example is something we call deep search. And this is really cool, where you can run a microservice that's actually going to add tags to your files. So in this example, we've got over 100,000 items on this particular server, and I can type in trees, and it will go through, tag the trees, find them, and allow me to find them quickly. Well, that's great, but I'm able to do things like, say, large red tree, and it actually will understand what's in each of these pictures and figure out which of those assets is a large red tree. And I can use natural language, so I can say maybe I want to see a brown, rusty barrel, and it will find what it thinks are brown, rusty barrels, which is really cool. So in this case, it found some logs and some barrels, and really helps me find things quickly of those 100,000 items. Or I can drag a picture. So I can actually drag a car in here, and it will find items that it thinks look like the picture. So here it found a bunch of red cars. Now that's super powerful. And if you don't think that's pretty cool, let me show you that use in real life when you start talking about large game assets.
Game development is an extremely complex process, with hundreds of thousands of assets made across dozens of teams. Together with Activision, we are exploring the ways Omniverse can help game developers build games faster. With Omniverse Deep Search, developers can search through vast asset libraries using natural language or image-based queries. These assets can then be placed in a fully interactive path-traced scene. Using Omniverse's advanced simulation and physics capabilities, designers can configure, adjust, and place physically accurate objects with just a few clicks, doing in seconds what was traditionally a time-consuming process.
So as you can see, this is extremely cool, super useful, and makes it very easy to say, hey, find me a white barrel or find me the tires, and let me focus on actually putting stuff in my scene and not actually searching through directories and stuff. So there's a number of microservices that Nucleus comes with. It's very powerful. You can write your own. There's a number of things that you can dig into in the documentation. And finally, that brings me to the documentation. I've just touched on a few of the different features, but if you go to the next button right below here, there's a features and benefits page that shows you a bunch of the features in more detail and leads you into the documentation so you can get deep into the technical details, as well as we will continue to add features, obviously, and we're cranking out a bunch of nice ones, and that page will constantly be up to date. So I encourage you to take a look through that, and if you have any questions, we'd like to hear them. Thanks for your time. Have a great time using NVIDIA Omniverse.
Hey, we're back. It's on you, Edmar.
Oh
That
gosh.
Yeah.
okay.
Any advance
So
warning on that?
deep
That
search
was a great
was
overview. So that and I should say
amazing.
actually this is also based on uh, a more extended talk you did at the latest GTC, right, TJ?
Yeah, that's great. So people can obviously publishing that and go check it out in detail. And today, what we thought we'd do is show you that quick overview, just to give a mind, map of what we can talk about. And then because we do have the opportunity to answer questions, we thought we'd do that with the stream, answer some questions, and then Paul and I thought, because it's near the holidays and it's not nearly exciting enough just to answer questions, we're actually going to build a little live scene with you as we answer your questions, just to add a little bit of extra technical difficulty for Wendy here.
Yeah, and I'll be switching between the two of them. But I want you guys to know they're doing it at the same time, and they're in completely different locations.
There's no trickery happening behind the scenes. No
It's
worries.
magic.
And why you guys bring up that scene? So I thought what you just described a few minutes ago in the video was fascinating, because I do think that when we talk about Omniverse being NVIDIA's open platform for real-time simulation and collaboration, I think that a lot of people probably don't get what the benefits of collaboration are if you're not on a team, right? But your point, I think, is fantastic in that that you often need to collaborate yourself by looking at your asset in different apps.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things I've got. I don't know if you're showing the screen here, Wendy, but this particular scene we've got open, exactly like I showed in that other video, where you can work in Maya if you want to here, or you can work, and you can see obviously Maya. I've used it for a number of years, so I'm quite fast in navigation and stuff like that. But the fidelity of the viewport is not quite as nice, so it's actually nice to bounce between that and Create here that I also have open. To just see, obviously the ocean and the different things that Paul has set up in this great scene.
And when you're collaborating with yourself, so obviously you can, you still have to, you're using a local nucleus in that case, obviously, right?
No, we are not in local nucleus.
Yeah,
we're using a company's server.
That's right.
So this would be like if you worked at a company, but you could do it completely on localhost. Everything we're doing here, you can do with localhost. The only difference would be you'd have to be on a local network, right? Because you can't host that over the internet. But yeah, that's basically the only kind of caveat. You would need an industrial server for doing live collaboration, kind of across the world. You wouldn't be able to do that with localhost.
We've had a few people ask recently about how it is set up and how does it work if you're using multiple users. So what we'll do after the stream is I'll head over to the NVIDIA Omniverse Discord, which is discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse, and we'll hang out in the Omniverse community voice chat room. So I'll try to collect people's information, and there's questions, and then we'll see if we can schedule a time to help people with their setup in a case-by-case basis. So feel free to hang out after the live stream. We'll go over that. Paul, you actually have a few nice. So if anyone doesn't know, Paul is extremely helpful on these live streams. He's actually the one that produces a lot of our documentation videos and tutorials. So
Like
and he's done
99% of them.
99. Is that true? Holy cow!
It's more like 50%. But I mean,
so yeah, and you do have some videos on Nucleus and the setup.
I think TJ just finished a Nucleus video.
A new one.
Awesome.
I've done some basic overview stuff for Nucleus, and you can look in I think it's like the Omniverse Getting Started group of videos. But yeah, we have. I mean, the whole thing about live collaboration with Nucleus is once you have Nucleus installed and you've made the connections and you've figured out your local area network and gotten your computers to connect together properly, which is really a Windows thing, not so much an Omniverse thing. But like once you have that kind of infrastructure set up, live collaboration is easy, right? Like the only thing I have to do is hit this green button right here. And then this asset, you can see here, it says live sync is on, right? So I'm live syncing to this file, and all it took was hitting that button, right? And the same thing would be true in whatever tool I'm using. So if I'm in Maya, it would be the same thing, right? There's a live sync button in Maya. And then you just open up the content that you want to work on, and then you're live syncing. And really the only difference is that you don't have to hit save, right? Like that's the primary difference, is you're not hitting save all the time, because every single action you do is live saving, right? So it's saving that change every time you you move something. Well, it's saving it as it moves, and therefore it's just going straight to the server, and then anyone else that has that live stream turned on, or the live sync turned on, will see whatever changes occur, right? So like I don't know if you can show this, Wendy,
Yeah,
but like I'll move around this. Cool. So, and I don't know why my computer is just dogging today. We're not.
Like if you go over to the corner of the wall there, Paul, by the logo, I've put a Christmas tree, and you'll be able to see it moving around.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's go over there. Sure. Yeah, I love Christmas. Oh gosh.
Uh-oh. Don't do it, Paul. Don't jump off the cliff.
I tried.
Paul will be able to, obviously, we could work on this together. Like maybe I'm adding these red balls, and he can go in and add like bronze ones or silver ones, or different things. And that's a really cool thing, is that you can work together and iterate live, which is really a mind-bending kind of process when you're working in 3D, because now and I are in the same scene. We can start, I could start doing animation and figure out where to walk around this tree while he continues to work on adding decorations to the tree.
And what's also nice is we can communicate while we work, right? Like, I mean, especially if you have like headset on or something, like we currently do, I could make requests, right? Like I could say, hey TJ, make sure all those balls are nested underneath the tree, right? So that as he's adding those balls, they're added to the tree. So this way I can go ahead and move and scale the entire tree in one movement, and all those balls are going to go with it. And if I scale the tree, then everything will happen. But if we don't have that kind of communication and we're not working live, that would be something that TJ might have set the tree up and the balls were not nested under the tree, right? And now how do I fix that? Well, I got to call TJ, I got to ask him to fix it. He's got to make the change. He's got to send me the file again. Here, it's all just part of the working process. Like, hey, could you just drop those balls into the tree? Thanks. That would be great. And then we can just make our changes, So it's really, really easy. There's so many benefits.
Group for you.
I'm sorry?
I just put it under the tree group for you because you told me to.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much, TJ. But you can see how this just changes the entire game. It's nothing like it used to be. Like, I don't know how to describe it any better than that. Like, the world is different now. You know what I mean? Like, really.
It is very transformative.
And if it wasn't a dog, we'd really see the difference here.
Yeah, what I love, well, this is my favorite part, but whenever I would, when I used to work at a game studio, they would be like, well, do you know Maya? Because we only use Maya, and I'm a Max user. So I would have to switch over to Maya. And then, if I would do another job, they'd say, oh, we only use Max, or Blender. And what's great about Omniverse is if I like using Max, I can just use Max, and it can, you can save that file and transfer it to Maya, to even Unreal Engine, all through USD. So now I can really use the tool that I like, get really good at it, and I don't have to worry about not being able to use a specific tool for a specific project.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because all of them have different features, right? Like maybe you like the way to extrude shapes and make crown molding in Max better, but you want to animate in Maya, or vice versa. Right. Like you can now mix and match, right? Which is really, really useful.
So I think people spend a long time trying to, get their workflow just right. And learning their software, and there's definitely a Max versus Maya camp. Yeah. And when I had no idea you were a Max user, so I learned something new about you every day.
I mean, I've used both back and forth, but Max is what I originally learned on, because I did a lot of CAD and architecture and blueprinting. So that's my go-to. Maya users cringe, but
Oh, it's the other way around too.
Yeah.
Okay. let me see if we have any questions. So people asking about the assets that are included. So there are a lot of assets that are included when you install the Omniverse.
Yep.
And we have what's called a mount, right, where all these assets are located. A content folder.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, if you show my screen, I can show you. So assets is a tab here, and we have vegetation is the first one people will see, and there's all sorts of different ones, trees and stuff. That's what actually brought this Christmas tree in. But then we're adding more to that, right? So there's residential and marbles, and there'll be more as we grow in the future. But I've done all sorts of interesting things, like use this grass, and I made it blue, and I used it to paint fur on a on a Totoro character. So it's really interesting way to sort of give you stuff to play with, but you're welcome to use them as you wish.
Yeah, I know. Our first contest, the marbles, the the things artists can do with just random objects, just amazing.
oh yeah, fooling around with scale and lighting, you can unrecognizable to what the original asset was. It is pretty wild. We have people checking in on the chat from all over the world. See some friends here from the community. There's Pekka Anderson. I see also Anderson War, who's audio to face magic person.
Do we have any questions you want to read out?
Yeah, let me see. So the first question you just answered a minute ago is about the assets are included. Somebody's asking about connectors. So what specifically they're asking about Cinema 4D. I'm not sure if TJ, if there's anything to share on Cinema 4D.
Well, we've got a number of connectors built already, as you know. So, obviously the Maya one we talked about earlier, there's Unreal Engine, etc. And we've got a number on the go as well. I don't want to comment to when certain ones will show up, but you can imagine that there's a lot of interest from the community to really bring stuff in, and we add stuff, not every day, but pretty fast. So there's quite a few things that are being built right now.
Yeah, and the also it supports USD, so chances are if their software using it does support USD, you should be able to bring it into Omniverse.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
other thing that's really important to realize is like with tools like Maya and Max, if you have any of like even Blender, right? Like Blender's a great one for an example. Even if you're working in like the most obscure tool, it doesn't really matter, just so long as you can get it into Blender, right? Because if I can get it into Blender, then I have a connector that takes it into Omniverse. So that is always a path, and especially since like Maya, Max, Blender, those tools are just like, I'll import any damn thing. That means pretty much any damn thing can come into Omniverse. Now, there's one other thing to know. If you can get to FBX, you can just import FBX directly and convert on the fly. So if you look in your content browser, you'll see that you can right click and then say import. Of course, my machine is just dogging, and I'm really sorry about that. But here you can see import and convert, right? And if I were to select an FBX file, it would import to this location, convert. If there's materials, it'll convert those too, and everything comes in. So there's multiple ways to get in. And then there's one last way. Now this would be if you're going with USD or anything that can actually be directly utilized within Omniverse. You can work through Omniverse Drive, which is kind of your last method, right? And that is basically looking at your Nucleus server and giving you a file system on your computer that you can then just load files from whatever tool you're working on. And where something like that gets useful is if you're working in like Substance Designer, for example. You can work in Substance Designer. Now, Substance Designer doesn't have a connector per se, right? So what you do is you just go to Drive. Drive then becomes your conduit. So you're just exporting to your file system, which is what Drive actually ends up looking like. And then because you're just saving to Drive, that's automatically being your conduit into your Nucleus server. So there's a million ways to get, so basically what I'm saying is we have a lot of connectors coming. There are many that are in existence already. The ones that do exist are extremely robust. And if you can utilize them, then you have access to pretty much any content that you could possibly dream of. I mean, pretty much anything can get brought into Omniverse at this point. So I just elaborated a lot on a very simple topic, but yeah, there's a lot of ways to get in.
No, it's a good point. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't think to do that. You know, if you can get into Blender, you can get into Omniverse. That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways through, and same thing with like architectural programs, right? Because like, if you're working in an obscure architectural program that we haven't made a connector for yet, if you can get it into Revit, or if you can get it into, one of the ones that we have a connector for, then you're all set to go. You just use that as your conduit. So, yeah, hopefully that helps answer that question.
Cool. Big thanks to Vince, who I see is tackling some of the questions in the chat. So thanks, Vince. Now that we're streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, I have multiple monitors here. So when you see me go off camera, that's what I'm doing. I'm just checking out the other chats. A big shout out to all the people checking in from all over the world. Someone just wrote in from Germany, Nigeria.
It is so cool.
So do we have any other questions that are filtering in?
I know there's a lot of questions that people ask about Nucleus on Discord and the forums. So if you have a question, put it in the chat and we can get that answered by the experts right here.
Yeah, we are happy to do so if you want to read them out. I don't know if you've seen the latest changes here, Paul, but I'm adding Christmas lights as we're working on it.
Is that a emissive material on those?
Yeah, that's right.
Those are giant.
And not only that, but because it's path traced, you get like real light from your emissives.
I could,
I don't know if you can tell, TV is actually set to emissive, and you can actually see it. I mean, it's not the greatest example because it's not very bright. But you can actually see, if I could move anywhere, my goodness, this is impossible.
It's like,
you'd actually see that it's just awful. I'm like a slug. I don't know what's going on with my machine today.
When you guys move around, you keep going to like the cliff edge in that background. It's like, don't do it.
Yeah, well, that's just, What happens is it slugs until it gets outside that wall, and then all of a sudden, woof! It's got plenty of speed. I think it probably has to do with these windows, is my guess. It's the only thing I can think of is maybe something.
TJ, here's a question from Romo Creations. He or she is asking, well, first they're saying, amazing job. How would you be able to publish and share projects with the general public? So that's basically just like as you would with any other kind of DCC, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways you could do it. So it really depends on what you mean by sharing. Like if you want to share amongst yourselves, typically we set up a server. We've got several internally that we can all point to, and that's actually what Paul and I are using right now. And there's probably several hundred other people also today working on that, and we don't need to know about that. When you're talking about sharing externally to the public, it becomes, well, do you want to save this as a USD file and post it on like a TurboSquid or a Sketchfab, or there's a number of 3D marketplaces that support USD already. It really depends on what the sharing is. You can, in theory, do any number of things. So one of the things I would say, like especially if you're working with like an external contractor or something, you might want to set up a separate server that's just for that project and control permissions that way. Like there's a number of different ways you can do it.
Great answer. Let me see. Here's a question. Does Omniverse convert all materials to USD, such as Redshift and Cycles 4D?
We're leveraging MDL, which is an open sourced material that NVIDIA obviously is big proponents of and have created. And there's a number of ways to move that into Omniverse. And then depending on where you want to work, there's ways to convert that or see that. So you can see your MDL, for instance, in Maya, no problem, and vice versa. And it really depends on what your final output is. So if you're using Omniverse as a collaboration and then you want to output it to a different format, you can easily do that. With USD variants, you can do any sort of combination. So you can have multiple layers and stuff. Like There's quite a few things, but in this case, what we're showing today, we're using MDL materials.
Awesome. Let me see. So we have another question regarding. Oh, first, Tom Richardson has shared that he just made his first animation with Omniverse Create, and he really loves it. Tom, you should. So we have a couple of ways you can share your stuff, and we would love, love, love to see your work in Omniverse.
Yes.
Right. So Wendy, where do you recommend that people share their stuff?
So if you go to the forums, we actually have a special section called Showcase, and that section is actually tied into our launcher. So you have a chance to get your work featured on the
Visibility, yep.
launcher, and people can look at it.
Awesome.
And we also have a gallery page that you can add your animation to.
If you do a search for NVIDIA Omniverse Gallery, it'll bring you right to the page. You could submit your work and submit as much as you want, whatever your favorites are. Send them up. We'd love to share that, and then everyone else can check it out. You can also share on the Omniverse Discord server. We have also a channel there called Showcase, and then you can share with the community there, especially if you want to talk and get feedback on stuff. It's a great place. And then if you're ever doing work that you really, really are so excited about, and you feel like you've done something amazing that people need to see, get in touch with one of us.
Yes.
We'll take a look at it, and maybe we can help promote, or maybe do an article about your work, and showcase it on a blog. So definitely, we love to see. We're at the point now where we have a lot of people that are in Omniverse now, and it's fantastic to see all this new content coming out every day from new users and old users. So we definitely want to share and promote that. So thanks, Tom.
Yeah, well, Tom, now you have to share it.
Yeah, definitely
You
excited to
said
see
it.
what
Now
people
you
are doing
have
with
to
it.
share it.
And TJ, actually, so if you want to see some really cool stuff, TJ has a great Twitter feed where he posts lots of cool stuff, and I think a couple of them have at least been involved with your kids too, right, TJ?
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. We've built little Lego trucks and driven them down a ramp and smashed stuff. We've brought some. My kids are into Harry Potter, as a lot of kids are, so we brought some Hogwarts Castle from Minecraft in the Omniverse, and we had a dragon flying around it. We've done quite a few little fun projects.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. You can see here, I'm just having fun in the background. I'm painting little green fairy lights on the wall because I got bored of our Christmas tree. So this is,
Well, it
I just
needs to
grabbed
be.
one of the light objects that we had on the tree using the paint tool here. You can see it's just pointing at sphere with different density, and I'm able to just paint them on the wall, which is kind of fun. So yeah, there's lots of really cool tools that we're building for
Looks
sure.
like glitter. Like,
Today, yeah, it's and obviously you could go back in at any point and grab those spheres and change the material and the color and all that stuff. But anyway,
Here's actually a
you know,
great topic to touch on, since I think we'd probably have viewers on that would be interested in this. What would be the main difference between Omniverse Enterprise and Omniverse for individuals in terms of collaboration? Are we able to speak to that?
and one of the big differences, obviously, is Enterprise is built to share for more people, right? So Omniverse for individuals is really around you sharing with one other person. In Enterprise, we add a bunch of stuff for larger corporations, and as well as not just sharing with more people, then obviously you get into things that are more important for a big enterprise that wouldn't necessarily be as much for an individual, such as like being able to control your users through maybe a different HR system that you already have, or what happens if someone leaves the company and how do I handle that type of thing, different security levels, that type of stuff. So as you can imagine, with an enterprise, a bunch of those sort of technical things come along with it as well.
Great. Yep. And obviously support too, probably, right, with NVIDIA.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I'm looking at channels now. Here's a question from Star Creations. I need to be able to show 3D vehicle models to clients all over the world. Can this allow us to be in a VR environment that would simulate us in the same room with the vehicle to discuss design? That's a great question.
We have an AR
Yeah,
tool.
actually, I saw on the booth at SIGGRAPH Asia, I saw NVIDIA Omniverse in VR headsets there that people can try out. So there's some pretty cool stuff happening with VR. Obviously, we've got really nice ray tracing, and you can stream super high quality, which is really exciting.
And we also do have AR, which is now available. If you have an iPad with LiDAR, you can do AR like walkarounds where you can like load up a model and then walk around the object with your iPad, which is kind of neat. And it's all like basically click the button and it's done.
Yeah, there's a lot of support coming for VR. We talked about some of it at GTC recently. So there's a great article. I'll post it in the chat in a minute, going over all the announcements, including with VR and AR. But Joe, the answer to your question is yes. Let me see. Oh, here's a suggestion from Just Art Animation Studios. Please work on a connector for iClone because right now you can attach
We
a
have
CC
that.
character to a moving object like vehicle because it looks weird, and then the character doesn't move properly; it glitches. That's a good suggestion from Just Art Animation Studios.
Wait,
So the
what?
iClone. Do you want to speak about iClone at all, TJ?
Sorry, I'm not really understanding their question, but we do have quite a few of that stuff already built, so maybe we can grab that on the forum and get into more details.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do have an iClone. iClone has got a connector of types. It's not technically a connector, but it is a connector for all intents and purposes. It's basically a plugin that acts as a connector. So there should be no problem with that.
Yeah, I believe there's a page on their website specifically for Omniverse. So, but as TJ suggested, you can follow up with us on the forums or on the Discord server. We have a channel called Questions there for general stuff, and we'll be happy to help you. So you got a question regarding Unreal. So, is it possible to bring Unreal material and shaders inside of Omniverse?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't come in directly. We convert it, but the conversion's pretty clean, and you can go back and forth with it.
There you go. Okay, here's a good question also on USD. Our USD assets have Material X shaders. Any way to convert those to MDL? Would be great if Omniverse could have that option.
Yeah, we think so too. We've been working on that in the background, having a way to convert using Material X. So that's definitely a discussion that we've had for a while. And yeah, we think the whole point with Omniverse in general is that you just want to be able to bring stuff in and out and not feel like you have to stay in Omniverse because it's all about the connection with everything. And so it really the whole goal is to not say you must use this or that. It's more opening up the doors actually than how a lot of 3D apps work today. So yeah, whether it's Material X or different things in the future, maybe there's different physics stuff or we don't know, but we want to make sure that it's very open and collaborative.
Basically, Omniverse just tries to free your 3D content. You know, it's like it's been stuck in a Maya binary file for ever, and whenever you want to move it, it's a nightmare, right? Or move it to something else or use it somewhere else. It's just like, oh god, what do I have to do to make it happen? Whereas once it gets to USD, then you go wherever the hell you want with it. Easy peasy. So it's really about freeing up your work rather than, and I think that's probably one of the primary goals of Omniverse is to just really give you freedom with your work. Let it go where it needs to go, exist where it needs to exist. If you want to make a game and you're using architectural content, well, there should be no barrier there. But that has traditionally been a massive barrier, right? Like, how do I get my, I don't know, architectural building into Unreal? I mean, good luck, right? Like, there are tools that do it, but I mean, it's always a nightmare. It never really works. But Omniverse really makes that now pretty easy and pretty possible. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like a one-click affair, but it's not much more, like it's getting better and better. And as we make Omniverse more and more robust, I think those little barriers are going to just start disappearing. And you'll see that, like, you know, it'll really benefit you to be on Omniverse at that point.
Yeah, learn it now while it's
So
in beta, so that in the future you can be like an
I myself a
Omniverse
little.
pro.
Yeah, be a rock star. We need rock stars.
You getting some compliments on your scene there? Crowd? People are saying it's looking good.
Christmas tree brush. Where
Christmas
I can
tree
paint lights
brush.
now. There you go. So I'm just painting lights along the roof here.
Everywhere.
There we go.
Oh, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm watching my
So,
inbox
and
from NVIDIA's branding team saying, "What have we done?"
these are all on
More
Mischief, right? So you can,
Christmas lights.
as we add more, you'll see it showing up in the
Oh
window over here.
my
I zoom in.
gosh.
Kind of nuts. Yeah. So we're going all out with the Christmas tree lights, but yeah, unfortunately we have to we were late on the stream, but we do have to wrap it up, and we can take more questions on the forum for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what we'll do is we will all hang out on Discord. So just go to discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse, and we have a voice channel that's set up right now, Omniverse community voice chat. I'll hang out there for a little while. As long as people are chilling, I will chill as well. I won't be able to answer all the questions, but I will be able to take some questions down, and I'll follow up with everybody afterwards. Any closing remarks for this beautiful scene you've got here?
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of fun to use it. So we're hoping to see more examples getting posted, and I always get inspired by seeing what people are doing with it. So I hope you have fun over the holidays and get to try it out.
All right, thank you so much, TJ. Thank you so much,
everyone.
Paul.
Thanks
you,
everyone for
Randy.
joining us. We love you guys.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks.